We got Liberty, our last game. Good thing Memphis got a damn
Hell yeah, dude.
win.
Memphis looked good.
Memphis looked really good.
Seth Hennigan, man. All accounts is he's coming back next year, so that's going to be a big get. And Silverfield said, he goes, we want to get in the playoff. We want that spot. So it's going to be, we got a lot of talent coming back. We'll see. But let me say this, boys. I'm down bad. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. A lot of congestion, not feeling good. But you know what? One thing I'm not doing, I'm not opting out of this show. I'm here. Gonna give it 110%. I can't with these opt-outs in these bowl games. It's starting to really piss me off.
Yeah, it's getting really bad. Well, let's start the show because I'm sure we can discuss on the air, get some live chat stuff going with it too. But I probably got to tell you guys about my Disney World experience too, by the way. But I don't know. That might be for another show. But you tell me when to go, Jeff. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Happy game day Saturday. Really the last one of the college football season. And welcome into the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in all of the world. We are the Group of 5 guys. If you're new here, our mission is to be the voice for the Group of 5 football programs, be the voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. We need everybody's help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Leave a comment. You can jump on the live chat on YouTube during our live shows Tuesday nights and during the season, Saturday morning pregame show. Or you can go to group-of-5guys.com and get you some Group of 5 guys swag. On this show, we're going to break down, recap a couple of the bowl games from earlier in the last couple of weeks. We're going to preview this Liberty, Oregon Fiesta Bowl. See if Liberty's got a realistic shot at this game, and I'm sure we're going to get into plenty more. Hope you enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the 1st and 3rd round. Like, that's incredible.
That's
impressive. Yeah, the wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of 5.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of 5 programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of 5 because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
Guys, can I say something to just get us started, to just get us back in a rhythm? It's been a couple weeks since we've been on here, a couple weeks since we've been animated about something. Can I say that not only has the on-field product been left a little bit to be desired in these bowl games, but can I say that the coverage of the games and just the antics on these games, can I be an old get off my lawn man and just say that if I'm trying to watch the Duke's Mayo Bowl or the Pop-Tart Bowl or the Cheez-It Bowl, like one or two little sideshows is maybe funny, it's maybe a good time, but I can't take watching the entire game and half the time the announcers are not even talking about the game. They're talking about some weird mayonnaise dip that they're eating or something like that. It's starting to get where, again, ESPN and the likes want to complain about the bowl games not being as meaningful as they used to be, and yet here we are on their network where their announcer team is eating mayonnaise nachos during the 4th quarter of a football game. And I don't know. I promise you this. You won't see that on Monday. On New Year's Day, you won't see it. You might see it in the Liberty game because they'll just make sure they can throw enough shots at them. But you won't see it in Alabama, Michigan. You won't see it in Texas and Washington. I don't know. It's my complaint right off the bat. I'm getting started with it, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I posted this on Twitter just the other day, and it was bad. I mean, NIU's playing Arkansas State, and they have a freaking graphic of the Arkansas Razorbacks on their thing. So it's just ESPN, you got to do better than that. That's just piss poor.
Well, the weird thing there is I mean, I imagine Arkansas Razorback fans were felt a little shafted by that too. I mean, it's not like they, I don't know. I mean, it's just again, we've talked about this year after year when they do this stuff. Nobody looked at that before it went on air and thought, now wait a second. That looks an awful lot like the SEC Razorbacks logo. Nobody thought about that, and then they put it up there, and nobody acknowledged it.
It'd be one thing if it was the only time it's happened, but it's not. It's happened, throughout the season multiple times. So it's I don't know who's proofreading the graphics, for ESPN, but it's come on, man. I know there's a lot of teams, and there's a lot, they don't just cover college football. So I get it, but have a little pride about your craft. Just embarrassing.
Yeah, and weren't they showing? I can't even remember what school it was, but they were showing the highlights of somebody against one school while they were talking about their game against. I can't remember what it was. I'm butchering that, but there was there's been some bad ones. There's been some bad ones, and I know. Look, you got these games on in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day. You don't have your prime time crews, but. I mean, like you said, still, man, it's they got enough employees over there. I can tell you that much. It's not like you got one person making every graphic for every single game. At least I hope not. But
well, maybe not. I mean, I know ESPN's been hurting financially for a little while now, so maybe they're just having to cut staff members, and they only got one guy trying to do. I don't know.
They're not helping themselves, though.
No, they're not.
To me, it's okay, we're going to make some budget cuts or whatever, but we're going to pay 2 guys just an astronomical amount and then have everybody else that's just clearly they're just not as good. Whether it's a talent thing or just an overall production thing, I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to watch. And then you got on the field product, and you just got so many guys not playing that. And you got half the coaching. So you got a shell of the coaching staff, shell of the team. Fans don't want to go. You're going to lose. You're going to start losing money. All these bowl games that are strictly, for the money, you're going to start losing money because fans don't want to go. Last night, I caught some of that Ohio State Missouri game. If I'm an Ohio State fan and I'm in that game where, first of all, you've been selling me on the playoff all year long, and then we miss out on that. And then we get to this bowl game and you tell me half the team's going to be out, our best players are going to be out. I'm not going to that game. Why would I? Yeah, so I think you're going to start seeing a bit of a correction on that, in my opinion.
Well, let's hope this expanded playoff solves a little bit of that with some of these teams. But, yeah, I don't know. They're completely different teams. And then you talk about trying to game plan for an opponent. How can you when you don't have film on the quarterback or you don't even know really who's going to play? So you just go out there and do the best that you can, but it's a weird dynamic. It's a weird situation right now with the transfer portal, with that December signing day. We got to figure out something better than what we got right now, because right now it just sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I have another solution other than just getting rid of the early signing day. I think another solution would be you have to have a 16 team or more playoff, and all conference champions make it. But I think also if you shorten the regular season down a game or two, I think you could get conference championship. I think conference championship weekend should be either the week before or the week of Thanksgiving, which is currently that quote unquote rivalry weekend where, half the schools have an actual rivalry and then the other ones are forced, and you got no students on campus, so the crowds are limited. So why not make conference championship weekend that weekend? So you'll only have 10 games being played. A lot of them will be off campus anyway, so it won't be the students that you're relying on for the crowd. Then you could go round 1 of the playoffs and all the other bowl games first weekend in December. Round 2, second weekend. Round 3, third weekend. And then you could give them a bye, and then you could make the national championship by itself on New Year's weekend. That would eliminate, I think, a lot of opt-outs, especially for the early bowl games in the first round. And then it'd be hard to have somebody opting out with a national championship on the line. And then 2, you wouldn't get these games where you go a month between 2 teams playing football. So there's going to be a little bit of that layoff, that kind of that rust that you talk about. And then, I mean, I don't know. I saw somebody suggest that you do the playoff and then you do bowl games instead of spring games as like just a pure exhibition, pure scrimmage bowl game like that. I think that would be an interesting point.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I think the root of it, though, we got to do something about the transfer portal. And I think with what you're getting, you have it's free agency. Let's call it what it is. They can call it, NIL, but it's not that. And you're gonna have to start putting, contracts on the table and making kids put their money where their mouth is. When they sign, it's for 2 years, for 3 years. And if they want to sign a 1-year deal, that's fine. If you don't pan out, see ya, dude. But there's got to be, I think if you do that, that's going to, I think there will be kids that do want to sign for 2-3 years. Then they're locked into that. You have to finish that out. That's the contract that you signed. This is the money you're allotted getting throughout that time. But where it's just basically come and go as you please. Anybody can contact anybody. They're not supposed to, but it's happening. Like, it's just turned into this just shit show, honestly.
And I'm worried that the expanded playoffs going to make it worse, actually, because all the teams are just going to try everything that they can to get into that playoff. And if they don't, and then they end up going to a Duke's Mayo Bowl or a Pop-Tart Bowl or whichever bowl it is, that's not their end goal that they wanted for that season. So I think you're just going to see more of the kids on those teams opt out or transfer or whatever the case may be. Why don't we just do like basketball, 60, well, it's 68 teams now, 64 teams. And let's start, look, everyone loves football. Let's just start the season in like June or July. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I know it's the middle of the summer for those students, but look, they want to play. We want to watch football. Let's start it early. Why not?
Dude, yeah, I mean, could you imagine people opting out in June, July? Yeah, that's an interesting point, though, Tip, because now you're going to have, for instance, at the group of 5 level, like you tend to not get quite as many opt-outs, like at the group of 5 level, if you're, let's just say, App State and Miami of Ohio, like Miami of Ohio, like probably didn't have any expectations to make a New Year's Bowl this year. Maybe they did. Not great expectations. But now they're gonna feel like, hey, look, if we win 10, 11 games, win the conference, like we got a chance at the playoffs. So now instead of we're getting in the playoff, we're playing in the GoDaddy Bowl. It's gonna be even worse. Like for some of these teams right now, it's like, oh, you didn't make the playoff, but you're still playing in the freaking Cotton Bowl or the Peach Bowl or whatever. It's still a pretty big deal. It's like now you're going to have even more teams that think they got a shot at the playoff that won't make it. I don't know. Maybe it is time to reevaluate and eliminate some of these bowl games. I always like more football, but when the product's getting a little tough to watch, it's not, I don't watch any preseason NFL football. None of it. So it's just not the same. And that's what we're getting with. That's what we're getting to with this. And that's what these bowl games are. It's a preseason game for 2024 with the roster. And then you're going to have all new guys again come in. It's like you got half your roster in December. Then you got a whole new roster in the spring. And then that roster gets cut down and you get a whole new roster come fall camp. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just not good. And I want to say one more thing before this will lead into what bowl games we've had. I saw some idiot from 24/7 Sports say something like, the Group of Five is 1-6 against the Power Five in bowl games this year. Tell me again about how they're going to have more of a shot with the expanded playoff. And it's so obvious about cherry picking stats, because why is it that you talk about that, but nobody's going to say that Ohio State doesn't have a shot next year, even though they looked like an awful team last night? Nobody's going to say anything about any of these quote unquote blue bloods that look terrible in bowl games that have guys opting out. And then at the same time, because I responded back from our account, I said, yeah, except we're 500 in New Year's Six games. I mean, all time.
Yeah.
So he's saying that it's going to be unlikely to have a quote upset. It's like, it's about a 50-50 shot, which is pretty good odds. Now, the likelihood of a Liberty or whoever winning multiple playoff games, probably not likely. But you know what else is not likely? Any of these teams outside of the usual suspects winning more than one playoff game anyways. Like, we get it. Whoever gets there is going to get smoked probably by the Georgias or the Alabamas or whoever the, number one top tier dog is. We know it's going to happen. But why not win a playoff game or two and give them a chance to get there?
That's all
again,
we want.
Well, and you look at last year, like a Tulane USC matchup, very likely could have been a first round playoff matchup. And what a game that was. And just imagine if it was for winner gets to move on to the semifinals for the playoffs versus it's just a bowl game. How much more exciting that game would have been. How many more people would have watched it on TV. So
it's such a double standard, and then we'll get into these bowl games. But, when a Group of Five team does beat a Power Five team in years past, it's been, those players don't care. Half their roster's not there. So then you get a situation like Duke versus Troy where, they're one that lost, but their head coach left. Players, weren't playing. So you can't say that when the Power Five loses that, it's not the same team, all these opt-outs, da-da-da-da-da. That's why Group of Five, And then on the same flip side of that coin, say Group of Five doesn't belong when, if you look at the games that they lost in, it's the same reason. Head coach leaves, players leave. It's just not the same team. So pick which one you want, which we're going to go with. I'm fine. Let's just keep it a consistent standard across the board.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess fortunately for the Liberty folks, all of the teams that, thought that they deserved a shot over Liberty, they've all lost in their bowl game against not as good teams. But again, they're starting to sound like the same Power Five people. They're sitting there saying, "Oh, you can't look at bowl games because this, and this." It's like, well, we're going to look at it for sure in the result of the Liberty game. Well, if Liberty finds a way to win or even keep it close, we're going to see, well, Oregon was without their number one receiver. But if Oregon beats Liberty handily, you're not going to hear anything about Liberty being out, two starting safeties opting out, transferring. You won't hear anything about that. So, yeah, dude, I agree. You can't tell anything from bowl games, but let's not use it sometimes and not other times. But anyway, we've had some bowl games. We had Memphis, finally got the win, finally got us back on the board. So what we have, 2 wins over Power 5, right? We have Memphis and we have I'm completely drawing a blank on that.
What was the other one? I can't think of it either.
Wow. So long ago, I think. But then you had Troy lose, Tulane lose. That Tulane game, that was another one where the rain was just like, I mean, that was a pretty good game. It was a pretty entertaining game. But that
Sprouse,
rain
how do you
was
not remember this other one, dude? It's your South
Florida
Florida
Bulls. Syracuse
That's
should have known.
exactly
Damn
what
it.
it was.
They blew them out to two
45-0.
Two pretty good blowout. I mean, and Memphis jumped on Iowa State pretty quick and held on. It got a little hairy late, but
I tell you what, the Bulls better lock down Byron Brown.
Yep.
You better be giving him an NIL deal, making sure he's nice and comfy. Getting him some, massages.
Yeah.
keeping him happy down in South Florida because 3 touchdowns, also was a leading rusher in that game. He's a stud now. You got to keep him in house.
What about Seth Hennigan? I mean, my goodness.
Did you
Everything
see
that I
those
said
deep
during
balls
the
he threw?
Yeah, dude. So it's like pissing me off because where was that in the first quarter and a half against Boise State when we were there? And I was telling him, I'm like, I don't know, but this guy must be hurt.
I think it was just a different game plan. You could tell early on in that game they were going like sideline to sideline, weren't taking many deep shots. And when they were just like barely off. But last night his deep ball was, I mean, it was on. I mean, that's that was one of, if not the better games he's played all season.
He looked good. Murph's boy Rock Taylor looked like a stud once again. Blake Watson looked like a
They
stud.
couldn't stop
once
Blake
again.
Watson.
Yeah. You know, Memphis, I mean, look, what'd they lose? 3 games?
Yeah, they're 10-win.
To SMU, Tulane, and Missouri. So, I mean, that's a team that once again going into next year. See that these are the teams where the bowl games matter, right? Because it got them that 10th win, it got them a lot of momentum going into next year, bringing everybody back. That's a team to look out for. And I mean, in the American, you're going to lose SMU. Memphis looks really good. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get on the bandwagon again. But I'm telling you, South Florida is going to be good. They're going to contend next year. I'm telling you. So, I mean,
not to be controversial here. Good riddance, SMU. I'm so sick of their fan base on social media just crying about Liberty getting the nod over them. And if you look at it, your starting quarterback was hurt. He was not going to play. You got the same treatment Florida State got. And it is what it is. Like, Liberty handled everybody on their schedule. I'm just kind of over it, to be honest. You're on the way out. Like, have fun in the ACC.
Well, when did losing to anybody become a better metric than winning?
I don't.
That's what I don't get. Like, I don't get the people saying strength of schedule, but they lost the game. Yeah. You're sounding like these SEC fans, but that talk about SEC. Yeah, but you lost 3 games.
Strength of record is the better metric, and if you look at it, Liberty's got a good strength of record because it analyzes the wins as opposed to just the preseason,
right?
Biased rankings that are already set in place by the people, at the top of the echelon. So it's like, let's look at the games and how they won those games. To me, that's more important than just strength of schedule.
Well, it's kind of like this, like especially specific to SMU. Like, they lost to Oklahoma. That's a good club, but they lost to a pretty bad TCU team. And we know that TCU is not as good as this Oregon team. So, like, if they think they're all saying, Liberty's going to get crushed by Oregon, well, then so were y'all. Like, it's just a weird thing. And I think the hatred for Liberty is just deeper than that. And they're just trying to pretend like it's all about football, but it's not. And which is weird coming from SMU, talk about controversy and corruption and those things. And, last I checked, the M in SMU is for Methodist. So I would imagine if you read their handbooks and whatnot, it would say a lot of similar things that Liberty's would. But that's neither here nor there. This is not a sermon. This is not a political statement. But it's just like, come on, guys. Like, just get over yourselves. These people live in these glass houses, dude. I mean,
yeah.
But SMU, we knew they were an annoying bunch, for many.
You've been calling them the wine and cheese crew of the group of 5.
It's a wine and cheese school. And speaking of SMU, I find it hilarious that they think they're so big time, but a bowl game between Texas State and Rice had the largest crowd at their stadium this year. So how's that for you, SMU? Have fun. Like, have fun big time. You're in the almighty ACC, having 19,000 showing up every weekend. I mean, come on, dude. These teams going to these power conferences, like, you have to understand, you're still going to fight the same fight because you're not the big brand school in your area, and you never will be. I just hate it. I hate to say it, but if you're in Dallas, Texas, and you walk around, whether SMU's in the ACC, the American, the Big 12, hell, even if they get in the SEC at some point, they're still going to be little brother to Texas. They just will be. I mean, Texas Tech is. Texas A&M borderline is. So I mean, like, I just don't know where these fans get on their, all their whole high horse about being so big time. But SMU's got to be the worst one. I mean, it hadn't been relevant since the 80s, really. And they think that because they lost to TCU in Oklahoma, losing to TCU in Oklahoma is better than beating New Mexico State, Jacksonville State, and them. I just don't understand it. But anyway, any other bowl games? That Texas State-Rice game, I mean, Texas State, they better hang on to old Ishmael Mahdi, dude.
Yeah, he's a stud. Well, that's what I was going to say is the Fighting G.J. Kennys, man. They showed out. That's a big game, big win for them. Makes him an 8-win team. That's a pretty good season in Kenny's first year to turn that program around like that. They need to hold on to Mahdi. They need to hold on to Kenny as well. If he has another good season or two, people are going to become looking. He'll be fast-tracked, linked to one of these Power 5 schools.
First bowl win in school history since they've come up to FBS. So congrats to them. What a great season for them.
Fantastic.
I wish these guys were getting more love from the media. I mean, we know why, but G.J. Kinney, Alex Golish, Barry Odom. I mean, I know the Liberty fans started to turn on us real fast. God forbid we didn't list Chadwell as coach of the year. I think the difference is Liberty still had some expectations. I mean, they maybe didn't expect to go 13-0, but I think people expected them to be at least competitive in the conference. Texas State, South Florida, UNLV, these guys have been just bad for a while. And so that's where those three, in my opinion, belong more in the coach of the year conversation than a Chadwell does. Now, I know he's great, guys. Liberty, y'all better not turn on us. We've been the only ones on your team here.
Yeah, that's kind of the difference, right? I mean, when Chadwell went into Liberty, we kind of expected 8-9 wins right off the bat, year one. These other three teams that have been, have not been as good for as many years, especially recently, to turn these programs around like they did. That's why those three head coaches were on that list for us.
Yeah. Well, and it's also coach after coach after coach and have, failed or not done well there. So it's when you get one that finally hits, it's pretty special. Where Liberty, they just came off of a great couple of seasons. So anyway, any other bowl games that surprised you? Anything we need to talk about that I'm missing here? Or are we ready to get into this Liberty Oregon thing?
I just got a couple notes that I do want to just drop here. Falcons are back. Air Force Falcons handle James Madison. I know they got a couple guys back healthy, but still, McLeod plays. I know their head coach was gone, so you can put a little asterisk by it. But all the Duke fans saying that they should have been the one in the New Year's Six. There's still Duke fans clamoring for that.
That was the Air Force team from the beginning of the year. I mean, that offense was rolling.
It was, and if we didn't get that 4-week window of just an all-time collapse, I think we might be talking about Air Force versus Oregon right now, and that would be. Like, don't get me wrong, I think this game's interesting, but just talk about, like, styles of play.
So different.
I'll tell you this. I think a lot of Oregon defensive players would have opted out. I bet you they would have. I bet you they would have had agents. Yeah, just being like, hey, dude, your knees and ankles just are going to get crushed in this game. You don't need to play against that team going up to the NFL draft. But, yeah, dude, I mean, Air Force, I was like, what the hell, man? Where's that been? But, Larrier looked good. It just
Michelle.
I think that was a lot of
235 carries, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hell of a performance.
Is that more, if you're as a fan, what's more frustrating? Like, is it frustrating to see that and be like, well, what? Like, where's that been? Or is it more frustrating if they just continued on this slide that they were on? Like, what do you want? Like, not that you want to
I'd
see
rather
him
have the ball
continue to
in.
slide. Yeah, but wouldn't you be like I'm kind of like this. You know, I have the little Air Force bias. I'm kind of just like, man, like what? Like, where was this the last couple weeks? Like, we could be talking about a New Year's game potentially.
Yeah. I don't know. And
Anyway.
then the last couple notes I just want to note: South Alabama just crushes Eastern Michigan. Gio Lopez, great performance. I mean, they got a guy. They got their guy, I think, to replace, because Bradley's done, I believe, right?
Yeah,
I can't
he's got to
remember.
be. But
I think he's
Lopez,
been there a while.
you know, when I was down there at that game against Troy, Bradley was, I think, like probable to play, and they went with Lopez. It kind of
Yeah.
seemed like they were wanting to move on to him, but you know, giving Bradley the respect that he's earned over the
For
years.
sure.
But Lopez is a dude, and so they better keep him down there in Mobile.
And the last one I just want to go with is Coastal gets it done in Hawaii, beats a good San Jose State team. Ethan Vasco, good performance, and our guy Sam Pinckney, over 123 yards, 8 catches, and a touchdown. Get this man to the Senior Bowl.
Get him
He
to
deserves
the Senior Bowl.
the opportunity. He's going to be a big-time player on Sundays, I'm telling you.
I think next week or whenever we do our next show, I think we need to do a list of guys we want to see in the Senior Bowl, and maybe we can pull Jim Nagy away for 5 minutes or something and see if we can get some of these guys on there. One thing I did want to bring up, because we got to talk about it, is you mentioned that Eastern Michigan, South Alabama game. What are we doing? I mean, you want to, like, Eastern Michigan, you want, like, this is another thing, another topic I'm going to get with you guys on, an off-season topic, is like we did the top 6 things that you could do as a fan to make, you know, help your program in 2024. We need to do a top 6 things you can do as a player to help your program in 2024. And I think the number one thing is don't be an asshole or don't be an idiot. And like stuff like that, like you want people to support your team, like don't do stuff like that. You're going to wonder why some of these places have a divide between like the regular student body and the student athletes, or the community and the football team. It's like you do stuff like that and you embarrass the university, you embarrass your teammates. That's just, I mean, look, I know like emotions run high and stuff like that, but dude, that they're doing their alma mater in front of the band right there. So that's like several minutes after the final whistle. So whatever was said or whatever happened on the field, like at that point, man, emotions should be kind of settled in a little bit. Like, dude, you know, I don't necessarily mind a little post whistle, you know, jab to the face mask, a little open hand jab to the face mask, or a little shove, something like that. But that right there and a sucker punch too. I mean, come on, man. I'm just glad. Here's what you can also tell. Here's how you know. You always know when there's a fight. If somebody is the instigator or kind of the, I guess, in the wrong, we could say, is when none of their teammates are there for them. So, like, that guy just gets crushed by South Alabama's teammates, and you really don't see any Eastern Michigan guys. Like, you see a couple guys come, and they start, like, trying to pull him off or whatever, but nobody comes in there and starts throwing down for the guy. So, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know him for anything, but I know, like, you have a friend or something that does something wrong, and, like, yes, you're going to fight for your friend, but at the same time, there comes a time when you got to be like, dude, that's your fault. If you get in a brawl at the bar or something and your friend was the one that was drunk, you know, egging everybody on, it's like, dude, you know, we might have to, next time we might have to let you get your ass kicked right there.
Well, I've never understood too is like you're going to run up on somebody and you're going to punch somebody with a helmet on. Like it's the stupidest thing to do. Like you punch the guy, like it was a sucker punch, yeah, but the guy still had his helmet on. So it did like nothing to that guy. And then I don't know his name, but 26 for South Alabama absolutely just heaves him up and just goes to work on him. That's a guy you want in the foxhole right there, because he saw him. He like saw him coming. He was like, oh, maybe he's gonna say like,
what are you doing here?
Good game. And then as soon as he like reared back, I mean, 26 just put his ass in the dirt and started pounding on him.
That was a quick reaction. I mean, that was impressive on his part. But then like nobody from Eastern Michigan came to save their guy. But
It's sort of surprising. Our good friend Alex Shearer at the CSC podcast tweeted out like, this is not, this is unusual for a Creighton coached, team as the head coach at Eastern Michigan. So he runs a pretty tight ship. So, just that happened. That was strictly just that kid, man. That kid goes over there and embarrasses himself, embarrasses everybody.
well, and that's it right there. That's it right there. Like, it's not typical from an Eastern Michigan team. But now, for the people that don't care about the MAC or don't care about the Group of Five or don't care about Eastern Michigan, that's what they think of. So now it's not like, Coach Creighton, disciplined team, hard-nosed, tough football team. Now it's dirty team, dirty players, whatever. And, I mean, that's just – anyway. All right, boys. Do the Flames have a shot? Flames versus Ducks. Oregon is one of the – I would say they're in the blue blood conversation over the last decade or two. They have been the team in the Pac-12. They have been in the playoff. They have played for a national championship over the last decade or so. A lot of great players, explosive offense. A little different this year with Dan Lanning. They're still very explosive on offense, but they're a lot tougher, a lot more physical than they've been typically. Couple opt-outs. Liberty's got a couple opt-outs. What are we thinking? What are we thinking here? I'm very cautiously optimistic. But I don't know. I don't know. Jeff, Tip, what do you guys think?
Well,
Tip, what do you think?
With an offense like Liberty, you always have a chance, right? You always have a shot in any game. So I think that's what they're going to have to rely on is in this game. I think it's going to have to turn into somewhat of a shootout, I think. I think you're going to ultimately have to outscore Oregon, and you're going to have to do it with a good balance on offense. And I know Liberty has had a lot of success running the ball this year. I had to look at this stat again, like 2 or 3 times just to make sure. They're averaging 303 rushing yards a game right now. But one of Oregon's strength on defense is stopping the run. They only give up 97.5 rushing yards a game. So that's strength on strength right there. But Liberty on offense needs to do a good job of mixing the run and the pass up and get Salter kind of moving around so that Oregon has to make sure that they hold, that they know that he's out there, and it just brings a whole nother dynamic to that offense, right? I mean, obviously we've seen it all season, but get Salter moving around, run the ball, throw the ball, and just have a good mixture of those three. That can kind of hopefully get Oregon kind of off their tracks, maybe on their heels a little bit. Not totally sure. Just don't get in a predictable rhythm, I guess, on offense. And on defense, like you just mentioned, Sprouse, we know Oregon has a really good offense, right? I think this is going to be kind of a bend, don't break, don't give up big plays, right? Just kind of allow whatever happens within the 20s, right? But then once you get in that red zone, that's when you want to try and buckle down, maybe play a little more man-to-man with some safety help and try and force field goals there. Or if they take the risk and go for it on 4th down, try and get those 4th down stops, build that momentum for your Liberty offense to try and drive down and score. But I think this is going to end up being a high scoring game, and Liberty, I think personally, to have a shot in this game, it's going to be a shootout. Liberty's going to have to ultimately have to score more points than Oregon, I think, and 40, 50, whatever points and whatever it may be. But I think ultimately they're going to have to just outscore Oregon because we know Oregon's going to score.
Yeah, well, and they can't, and this is more so I would say on the coaching staff, especially the offensive coordinator, can't panic either. If Oregon goes right down and scores, and it's a quick 7-0, you can't oh, we're down. We gotta throw it all over the place. Like, and I don't know why it seems like coordinators do that sometimes. If you get down 14-0, don't panic. You score because you can score just as quick as they can if you're Liberty. And I think there's going to be some emotions now on the on Oregon's offense. So they're out their number one receiver, but they're also out their starting center, who's like the Remington Award winner. So he's the best center in the country, according to the awards. So I'm wondering if Liberty can try to put some pressure on Bo Nix, especially right up the middle, like we talk about. I don't know anything about Oregon's backup center. I imagine he's probably a 4 or 5 star recruit kind of guy anyway, or maybe they're going to slide a guard inside to start at center, but see what they can do there. Maybe they can confuse them a little bit with some blitzes, but I think if you put some pressure on Bo Nix, you're out your number one guy, but then Liberty's out their 2 safeties. So that concerns me a little bit. I think, and then on the offensive side of the ball for Liberty, what you also can't do. So, and this goes with the don't panic and start throwing the ball every play and everything like that. If you get down 7-0 or 14-0, and that's a big if. I mean, Liberty could get the ball first and go down and go up 7-0. You just don't know. But one thing you don't want to do is, like, you don't want to be ultra conservative, but you also do want to control the clock a little bit, and you want to keep Bo Nix and that offense off the field. So you cannot get down 7-0 and then go 3 and out in less than 25 seconds because you threw the ball 3 times and then punt it right back to him. And then do the same thing again, because that's how you get blown out, just doing stuff like that. So, look, Quentin Cooley, run the ball, man. Pound the rock a little bit. See if you can get it done. I mean, I keep going back to that Cincinnati Alabama game because to me, this matchup is more similar to that as far as like the on paper disparity versus the Tulane USC game from last year. Like, I think Tulane USC last year was. Like, every game was pretty even. This one, like, if you looked at on paper, so I think Liberty, while yes, you want to control the clock, yes, you don't want to panic, you also play to win that thing. Don't, I don't. What I don't want to see is you're down a little bit in the fourth quarter and you're still playing super conservative because, it's kind of close and it might look good. Like, I'd rather you get beat by 3 touchdowns because you threw a late pick 6 or something than just accept a 1 touchdown or 2 touchdown loss or something like that. So, I don't know. I hope they play aggressive. I just Oregon's tough. I mean, dude, listen, Oregon was a favorite to make the playoff until Washington beat them for the second time. So, Caden Salter, study the hell out of Michael Penix and see what that guy did and then figure out how to duplicate it. Jeff, what do you think?
This is what I think. I think that Oregon has one of the top offenses in the country. Bo Nix is a Heisman finalist. They also have a 1,000-yard back in Bucky Irving. And then they have a guy, we were familiar with, Tez Johnson, is their other he's the number 2 wide receiver on the outside. Their number 1's opted out. Starting center's opted out. You're not going to stop Oregon's offense, right? It's just not going to happen. They have too much firepower. They have too much talent on the outside. They're going to score. So you got to accept that to a certain degree. But what Liberty's going to have to do defensively if they want to win this game, I think they have to get 2 turnovers. I think that they have to be, every time Oregon has the ball, they have to be punching at the ball. If they get an opportunity to pick it off, go for it. But if they can get 2 turnovers and get their offense extra possessions, that's how they're going to be able to hang around in this game. Offensively, run your offense. Chadwell, he knows what he's doing. He's played in big games before, probably not quite this big. But continue to use your motion to get the alignments that you want. Put your guys in advantageous positions to be successful. Try and get one-on-one matchups and trust that your guys can win those. And another thing, change the launch point for Caden Salter. Don't always drop him back. Roll him out. Do little half rolls. Run bootlegs. Run nakeds. Get him on the move. He's dynamic. He can make plays with his feet. But don't abandon what you've done well all year. You guys have ran the ball effectively on everybody. I think it's going to be a little more tough sledding in this game, but you got to stick with it to try and control the time of possession. That's going to be huge. So if they can either get close or at least split time of possession and then win the turnover battle, they're going to have a shot. But Oregon's going to try and come out, and they're going to try and get up big on them. They're going to try and get up big, 14, 21 nothing if they can, because then that forces Liberty to have to change their offense. And then you get into a situation where it's bad news bears. So weather the storm initially, because I think Oregon's going to come out like gangbusters, and they're going to be fired up, and they're going to want to prove that they should have been in the playoff. And that,
so you're telling me
Liberty
now that
doesn't
Oregon
belong.
wants to be there, Jeff. You're telling me now. Let's clear this up now before, halfway through the game. You're telling me that the Oregon Ducks are wanting to prove something. They are not one of the teams that does not want to be there.
The reason why they want to prove something is because Bo Nix, this is his last game. He's a senior. He's the leader. You're going to follow your leader. He's going to be dialed in. The last thing that guy wants to do going in the NFL is have a losing game on his resume in the Fiesta Bowl against what they deem as an inferior opponent. So he's going to be ready to go. So there's going to be no doubt about that, in my opinion.
Well, by the way, credit to Bo Nix, by the way, for playing in this
100%.
game. Because, like you just said, he really doesn't have a ton to gain.
No.
Because he's had a great season, Heisman finalist. And yeah, there is a lot to now. And here's the thing on the flip side: if you're Liberty or if you're Caden Salter, so let's make Caden Salter the star that he is in this game, and this could be a real national coming out party for him. And now, hopefully he's gonna stay around at Liberty. I mean, I'm actually surprised we hadn't heard a ton of transfer rumors out of Lynchburg from him, but we'll see after the game. But I think this is an audition for him. This is a national stage. This is an audition for whatever, not only for a potential transfer portal, but for the NFL. And again, you look at what Michael Pratt did in the bowl game last year. I mean, that guy came out and was the MVP of that game, and his draft stock has done nothing but rise, even with having some injuries and missing some time this year. So if you're Caden Salter, if you're Liberty, put the ball in your best player's hands and let him go to work. And I would love to see just a shootout, just two great quarterbacks back and forth, making great plays. And then I think you'd answer any question. If that happens, any questions about Liberty would be answered regardless of the final score of this thing. But do we want to make predictions? Do we want to even pick it or what? Here's the deal. If we all pick Oregon here, you know what that means.
That's a good point, Sprouse.
So I like Oregon then in this game, Tim. No, realistically, I think last line I saw was 17.5. Over under 67, which seems a little low, if you ask me. I mean, I think we could see a 70+ points scored in this game. I think Liberty will cover. I think Oregon is going to end up winning the game. I think it's a game where I could see, I think maybe an 8 or 10 point game late. And then kind of what I was talking about, a late Oregon score makes it, a 16, 17 point game, but not that 17.5. So I'll take the Ducks on the win. I am rooting for Liberty, though. I will not be putting any real money on this thing. At least I don't think. I might take Liberty to cover plus 17.5, but I don't know. I'm not a betting man. Tip, what do you think?
I love that 17.5 number. I'm going to be taking that one, absolutely. And I agree, 67.5 is what I'm seeing on the over-under. I'm going to lean towards the over on that. I just think both of these offenses are too good not to have both teams score 35+ points. So I'm going to take the over. I agree with you, Sprouse. I'm hoping that Liberty can keep this game close in the fourth quarter so that they can have a chance. But I think it's gonna ultimately be Oregon's gonna be up 7, 8, 10 points late in the fourth, and you might see a situation where Liberty's trying to be aggressive on offense, trying to move the ball to tie the game up or to score, to have a chance at an onside kick. and you might see a turnover or they go for it on fourth down and don't convert, and then Oregon scores a super late touchdown to go up double digits or by that 16, 17 points or whatever. So I think Oregon wins this game, but I really do think with how good Liberty offense has been all season, I really do think they can keep this game close. But at the end, I think Oregon does win this game. But obviously, going to be rooting for Liberty to pull the upset in this game.
And by the way, I'm on a score prediction for me. I'm going to go, I think this is a lot of points, 51-35 type of game. And I think it's going to be, 43, 45 or something late. And yeah, I'm right there with you, Tip. Tip, do you have a score before I go to Jeff, or you just?
I'll go 42-35.
Murph?
I mean, Liberty's going to have to play a perfect game. They're going to have the right game plan. They're going to have to execute that game plan in order to win this. It's going to be tough sledding for the Flames. I think ultimately, the Flames get it done. They come into the Fiesta Bowl, they take care of business, and they put the group of five on another level, top echelon.
If Liberty wins this game, what are we going to be seeing on Twitter from the SMUs and the Troys and the JMUs?
Oh, they will be silent. It'll be complete crickets from those people. But I think everyone should rally around Liberty. I really do. Regardless of whether you agree with their university politics or what happened years ago with their old president who's no longer there, the kids are playing their ass off, and they want to win this game. They're in the group of five, the same conference as the kids that are playing for your team. You should root those kids on. You should want those kids to make a statement for the entire group of five that'll give us, hopefully, maybe, another opportunity down the line when we get to this expanded playoff. I know we got the one team. I want two. I want three. Ultimately, it'd be great to have all conference champions in it. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but a statement win in this game, you're fooling yourself if you don't think that would help our chances of getting more teams in the expanded playoff. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon wins, but I'm going money line, Liberty Flames.
Wow,
Lot of money there. Lot of money.
Yeah, there's a lot of money there. Well, we shall see. Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern time is when that thing kicks off. 2 p.m. Eastern.
No,
what?
I'm sorry. I was saying we have 2 voicemails just to knock out before we go.
That's fantastic. Let's get to those voicemails. You guys keep calling that hotline, especially in this offseason. Give us a topic. If you want to see us take an episode in the offseason when there's not a lot going on, want us to just take the hour or so and discuss a topic, call the hotline, 615-900-4286. Jeff, let's see what we got.
What's up, guys? It's actually Brenner. I've been quiet last few weeks. We've obviously had a lot of stuff happen in Troy, and then me just, holiday season, almost having a 2-year-old, so running around with my head cut off, apparently. Not the way we wanted to end the season. It was a very rough game. The guys, it was like combined 20-plus players had food poisoning going into the game. Gunner, battled his ass off. He was not good at all. He had to get an IV 30 minutes before the game. He couldn't practice for the final 2 days of the week. Did everything he could. Really proud of the guys. Losing's never fun. Obviously we hadn't done that often the last 2 years. But now we can close 2023, enjoy the next few days, and then we start 2024, and it's Jerry Parker time. So pretty excited about that. It was just odd, for a lot of people that understand why Troy fans can't move on. It was just tough. A lot of people didn't expect for someone to be leaving. Sweetie did, but I'm really proud of him from a player standpoint, and as a friend, I'm proud of him, happy for him. But also as a Troy alum, it's time to move on. The train keeps going. Gotta move on, and on to the next. Well, it's been one hell of a season, boys. Just enjoy this off season, and we'll get this shit rolling next year. Have a good weekend. On Troy.
Appreciate you, Zach. As always, he's a regular caller, man. We appreciate your support. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to be mad at Summerall. That guy gave Troy everything that he had, and he's going to Tulane where he feels like that's where he needs to be and wants to be next. So, I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully Parker's going to follow in his footsteps and just keep that program right where it's been as a perennial power.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they've got the right AD in place. They've got, we know a bunch of the people down there, and they seem to do it the right way. And typically that leads to success. So I think they'll be just fine. And then I think Tulane is going to be just fine also. What else we got?
Last one. Our boy Zach Green. Let's get his analysis on this Liberty game.
What's up, guys? Zach Green here. Just calling in to give my thoughts on bowl season so far now that most of the group of 5 teams have played. First off, I want to just say something that goes without saying that I think everyone with earshot of me agrees with and that y'all probably already talked about on this show. But these coaches leaving early before the bowl game absolutely stinks, man. There's no way that Tulane, JMU, and Troy were not negatively affected by those coaches being gone. We've got to find a way to fix it. I personally don't think this problem gets fixed until the whole system is blown up and reoriented again, like it seems inevitable will be happening. But it stinks, and I do feel for each one of those 3 schools because that happened to Liberty last year, and we lost a game that was winnable, partially because our coach was gone. So I feel for them. Now, on the other hand, I don't want to take anything away from the 3 teams that beat them. Because one, Virginia Tech played really well against Tulane and very well could have beaten them, even if Willie Fritz was there. 2, Duke also had their coach and their starting quarterback gone, so it's kind of hard to say they had an unfair advantage. And then 3, Air Force looked like the team that they looked the first 8 weeks of the season against James Madison. So maybe those 3 teams go 0-3 with their head coaches. But still, it's hard to think that those head coaches being gone and not there for the practices and stuff didn't negatively affect things. And I do genuinely feel a little bit bad for JMU. I know that's weird possibly coming from me, talk some junk about JMU this year. I've been annoyed by their whole situation. But I do feel for them a little bit. That's a terrible way to go out. But I am just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit happy for them that they did get to go to a bowl game. Liberty fans listening to me, please forgive me for saying that. But secondly, I also think we're seeing some parity among the group of 5 through these bowl games. The Sun Belt did have quite a few wins, but they still went 5-7 and had a losing record in bowl games. Still think they're probably the best conference, but that record shows that they're not necessarily head and shoulders above everybody else like some people thought. Each conference had some good wins and some not so good losses. So that was just an interesting observation I thought about there. But last but certainly not least is this huge Fiesta Bowl game on Monday. Biggest game in Liberty history, toughest opponent we've ever played. And I'm excited for it, looking forward to this game, obviously. And if Liberty's going to win, it's going to take relentless offense, controlling the time of possession, hopefully through the run game, and getting turnovers on defense because our defense seems to have struggled at times when we couldn't get turnovers. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it, though. Thanks for all you guys do. Go Flames, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Appreciate you, Zach.
You know what I find very interesting about that call right there from Zach?
What you got?
Well, it was very rational, and it was supportive of these other schools a little bit, which I find funny because everybody else acts like Liberty is the one. I know we're talking about football here. Liberty is the one that, hates everybody and this and that. And yet here we are, and all I see is everybody else hating Liberty. And I think it's a little bit of a what do you call it? A microcosm of the bigger picture here, where I think if you went to Liberty, they would be very friendly and nice to the people that everybody thinks that they hate. And I think you might see the other, those people be the ones that are a little bit more on the negative side. But anyway, again, this is not a sermon or a political statement, Jeff. I'll tell you what, the longer we go, I'm going to start opening up Pandora's box here. No, but I agree with him about the coaches thing. I mean, it's it sucks. And again, I think we've offered up a couple of different solutions. I think, people saying about some of the rebuttals on the early signing day and the early transfer portal was that they've got to get enrolled in classes by January. But when was that a thing? Like, when was this whole spring semester so important either? I mean, these early, and then you got I don't know, call me crazy, but you really want a high school kid to miss their last semester of their senior year of high school? That should be one of the best few months of your young life, And yet you're gonna I get it, you want to prepare, but I don't know, dude. I just they're trying to make it so professional, and I think they're taking a lot of the fun and these are college kids, out of it with all of this stuff. But anyway, that's all we got, boys and girls. I think I'm sure we'll be back right after the Fiesta Bowl to break down that game, talk about what happened. And then I think we'll have a good update on what we'll be doing this offseason as far as shows. I don't know what we'll do. I think last year we did every other week. I don't know what we're going to do this year. Senior Bowl coming up. We're about a month away from that. A lot of good stuff happening. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the Group of Five Guys, make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Leave a 5-star rating. Leave a review. Tell your family and friends all about us. Or you can go to groupof5guys.com and get you some Group of Five Guys swag. That's all we got for you guys this morning. Go Flames!